Let's begin with Jameis Winston, Matthew. I think there's a case that Jameis Winston is one of the most intriguing players in fantasy football this season. You and I, being smart, are ahead of the curve here. His ADP for quarterbacks is 19. I've got him at 12. You've got him at 13, Matthew. In some ways, it feels like a match made in heaven, right? Bruce Arians, the quarterback whisperer, no risk it, no biscuit. Jameis Winston, who is the also no risk it, no biscuit, YOLO type of quarterback, does some really dumb things, but sometimes with great risk comes great reward. Now, there are some concerning signs for Jameis Winston. Has been less than careful with the football in the past. But again,
that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about Jameis Winston.
My diplomatic way of saying it. I know.
Less than careful. I love it.
Careful. But there's no Ryan Fitzpatrick waiting in the wings right now. Okay? Bruce Arians did not take this job in Tampa Bay to come out of retirement because he expected this team to need some slow crawl back to relevance. He wants to win right away. And although Adam Humphries is gone and Deshaun Jackson's back in Philadelphia, it's not like their weapons stink. They're loaded with weapons and a good offensive line, or at least a capable offensive line, Matthew. I'm in on Jameis Winston this year.
100%. 100%. So it's not always going to be pretty. Make no mistake about it. You don't have to always watch the games. Just remember that just because somebody's on your fantasy team doesn't mean you actually have to watch the games. But when you think about sort of like how deep Arians likes to throw the ball, and that's what Winston does well, what Winston likes to do as well. Remember, in his 9 starts last season, Jameis Winston averaged 4.6 deep completions and 11.1 deep attempts per game. Both would have led the NFL if he qualified. Both would have been more than Patrick Mahomes, again, if he qualified. It was only 9 games that he started. But in those 9 games that he started last season, he averaged 294 passing yards per game. That would have been 4th most among all quarterbacks, behind only Roethlisberger, Mahomes, and Matt Ryan, again, if he had qualified. I think this stat is crazy. Thirsty Kyle found this one. This is amazing. Since the start of 2017, Jameis Winston has 11 different games with at least 300 passing yards. That is tied for 3rd most among all quarterbacks in that span. But here's the thing. In that span, here's the players that are ahead of him with more 300-yard passing games. Jared Goff's got 13. Matt Ryan and Big Ben both have 12, right? And Winston has 11. Matt Ryan started 32 games in that span. Ben and Goff, 31. Winston, 22.
So on a per-game basis, he's much more likely to throw for 300 yards than anybody else.
He does it 50% of the time. He's played 22 games in this span, and he's thrown over 300 yards 11 times. I mean, that's 50%. I did that math in my head.
Wow.
I don't want to brag, but like literally like that.
Kyle's on the hot seat.
Didn't even help me on that one. Like, who needs Kyle? I can do that on my head. So I just think, look, and the last piece I'll make here is that if you piece them together, Fitzmagic and Jameis Winston last year, and there were a couple of games where one guy came in and came out, so that was frustrating. But that was one of the top. The Tampa Bay quarterback was a top 3 fantasy quarterback last year.
Top 2 last year, as a matter of fact.
Top 2. Yeah. Second best quarterback in fantasy. And so all the elements that made that happen, poor run game, poor defense, talented pass catchers, a pass-first offensive-minded coach, are all in place here. And the only difference is, yes, no Deshaun Jackson, Adam Humphries, but more importantly, no Fitzmagic. Like, Arians took this job understanding, like, your job, Bruce Arians, is to make Jameis Winston a franchise quarterback.
Not fix him, because it's not like he had previously been a franchise quarterback. It's make Jameis Winston. Are you comfortable going into the season with Jameis Winston as the only quarterback on your roster?
If it's a 12-team or 14-team league, yes, I am.
Okay.
So if it's a deeper league, I take that back.
The other way around.
The other way around.
If it's a 10-team league.
If it's a 10-team league, I 100% am.
Yes, you can just mine for depth.
Right, exactly. If for some reason it crashes and burns. If I'm in a deeper league, I'm probably taking somebody later as well. But again, like, I have him as I have him at QB 13. So I have him as a starter in a 14-team league. I have him as a fringe starter in a 12-team league. So, but yes, I am comfortable. I believe he's going to have a very big year. He's one of my favorite sleepers.
Not every running back group yields a weekly starter or even a weekly worthwhile flex play, Matthew. Every season, there's a couple of backfields that are basically irrelevant for fantasy. Ronald Jones had one of the most memorable for the wrong reasons season of a second-round pick in quite some time. 38th overall pick who had 23 carries for 44 yards.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports, highlights, and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.